43. A Sentinel Trilogy Story by Brian Bullock, a Starborne Studios production. Dareth ran. Thessara had not always been burning. That was the thought she could not quite release as she ran. The city had been alive that morning. She had watched Tally chase a neighbor's harvesting bird across the courtyard, arms windmilling, laughing. She had stopped at the vendor on Vessel Street on the way home, the same corner for 22 years. He knew her name and always tucked an extra piece of sweet fruit in the bag for Tally without being asked. She had come home to their small apartment in the Builders District and spread her project drawings across the table. The expansion of the Eastern Reservoir housing, her best commission in 3 years. While Tally arranged colored stones on the floor, working with the quiet seriousness of someone whose task only she understood, moving pieces and rearranging until something was finally right. That had been this afternoon. The vendor was still on his corner when the silence fell. Tally weighed almost nothing. That was the thought Dareth kept circling back to as she pushed through smoke that tasted like melted stone. Her daughter pressed against her chest, arms locked tight, face buried against her neck. Her daughter was 4 years old and weighed almost nothing, and the fragility of that, the specific lightness of her, was the sharpest fear in a night that was full of them. "Mama, it's loud." "I know, little one. Keep your eyes closed." The sky was wrong. Something moved across it like a stain spreading through water, vast and patient, and where it touched, things stopped being what they were. The first district had gone silent 3 hours ago. No explosion, no warning, just silence, where thousands of voices had been. Dareth had picked up her daughter and started running before she understood why. She didn't know why she ran north. She had no family there, no destination that logic could explain. But something pulled at her, had been pulling since the silence fell, maybe longer, maybe her entire life. And it said north, as a certainty older than language, carried in the structure of what she was, and dormant until this moment, waiting for the night when everything else failed. She passed the school on Lauren Way. 6 years ago, she had helped build it, mixed the grout for the foundation herself, hands in the wet material, feeling the structure take shape. Through intact glass, she could see the rows of small seats still in their afternoon arrangement. She looked away and kept running. So she followed it through streets that buckled and split, past buildings that sagged inward, as if the will holding them upright had departed, through smoke that carried the smell of things that should not burn. "Mama, where are we going?" "Somewhere safe. I'll know when we get there." A sound rose behind them. Not an explosion, not a scream. Something worse. A low, vibrating hum she felt in her chest. The sound of matter being reduced to something simpler. Something the stain in the sky could digest. Getting closer. "Don't listen to it," she told Tally. "Tell me the story about Dalla and the river." Tally's voice came small and steady against Dareth's neck, reciting the children's tale her grandmother had taught her. The same grandmother who had named the stars for her when she was Tally's age. Who was in the first district when the silence fell. Who Dareth would not think about now. Not while her legs still worked and the pull still pointed north, and her daughter still breathed. The story was simple. A traveler lost in darkness following a river that only appeared when you stopped trying to see it. Trust the current, it said, even when you can't see where it goes. She had always thought it was a story about patience. Running through smoke with her world dying behind her, she wondered if it was instructions, written down so long ago they had become a children's story by the time anyone needed to use them. She ran north. Tali told the story, and beneath them both, something ancient and patient guided them toward a door that had been waiting to open for longer than either of them could imagine. The terrain changed, broken streets giving way to open ground, then to a surface too smooth, too even, a road laid before roads existed. The smoke thinned. The air carried a charge that made her plates hum. Tali lifted her head. "Mama, what is that?" Dareth stopped running. It rose from the ground like something grown, massive and dark against the burning horizon, but alive dark, the kind that holds something inside it. Surfaces that curved in ways her eyes kept trying to correct and failing. Nothing in her life had prepared her for it. And yet the pull said here. The thing in her bones that had dragged her north through fire and death pointed straight at it and said, "This is where you were always going." Hundreds of others were already moving toward an opening in the structure's base, glowing with warm golden light. Families, mothers like her, fathers with infants, all of them drawn by the same pull. No one speaking, moving in silence, as if the certainty that had brought them here made words unnecessary. Inside, an elder Drossic stood at the entrance, ancient, plates pale with age, no uniform, no weapon. The expression of someone seeing something they had spent a lifetime preparing for. "You felt the pull?" "Yes." He looked at Tali. "The children go first. Follow the light to the lower chamber. They will sleep until it is over, until someone comes who can make the world safe again. They will not feel time pass. They will close their eyes here and open them in a better world. That is the promise this place was built to keep." Dareth looked at her daughter. Tali looked back, calm in the way children are calm when they trust completely. "Mama, are we safe now?" "Almost, little one." The lower chamber was vast. She had built things her entire adult life, housing blocks, reservoir systems, the school on Loran Way, and she understood load-bearing structures, what it meant for something to be built to last. This chamber had been built to outlast anything she had ever designed, by a scale she could not yet measure. She understood it in her bones before she could have said why. Pods lined the walls from floor to ceiling, thousands of them, crystal and gold, each shaped to hold a small body. Through the crystal, sleeping faces, infants, toddlers, children, Tali's age, their expressions peaceful, their small chests rising and falling with a slowness that suggested something deeper than sleep. The golden light pulsed in rhythms that matched something in Dareth's chest. Other parents stood before empty pods. Some were crying. Some were not. All of them held their children with the specific grip of someone about to let go. "Beds," Dareth said when Tali asked. "Special beds. For you." Dareth knelt and set Tali on her feet for the first time in hours. She kept her voice steady, the last gift she could give. "When you wake up, the sky will be right again. The stars will be back. Everything will be safe. Will you be here? I will be close. I will be so close. Promise? I promise." Tali reached up and touched her face, one small hand against the plating of her mother's cheek, the gesture she made every night before sleep. "I'm not scared." "Are you scared, Mama?" "No." Dareth lied. She lifted Tali into the pod. The interior was warm, as if the crystal had been waiting for this specific child. Tali settled into it and it adjusted around her, holding her the way Dareth's arms had held her through the burning city. "Tell me the story about Dala and the river." A traveler walked in darkness, She could not see the path, but beneath her feet a river ran, crystal and clear and older than the mountains. Tally's eyes were closing. The river said, "Trust me. Follow where I lead." Even when you cannot see the bottom, her hand relaxed, finger by finger. And Daedalus said, "I will trust you, because the darkness is very deep, and I am very tired, and you are the only thing that knows the way." The crystal lid closed slowly, giving Dareth time to see every detail: the small nose, the smooth plates not yet marked by years, the mouth that curved slightly even in sleep. The pale blue stone still in her pocket, the one Tally had chosen from her collection before they left the apartment, with the seriousness of someone packing for a long journey. "Sleep well," Dareth whispered. "I'll be here. I'll be so close." The lid sealed. The golden light steadied. Tally's face was peaceful, unchanged. Dareth placed her hand flat against the crystal. She stayed until she had memorized the rhythm. The slight pause between exhale and inhale, the cadence that had kept her company on 100 ordinary nights through the wall of the small room in their apartment. While she worked late on plans for buildings, other people would live their lives inside. Tally's breathing had always been the thing that kept her from losing track of time entirely. Then she lifted her hand. The old one, Sethan, he told her his name when she asked, had been here for 31 years. He had not been assigned. He had found the installation the same way she had, drawn north by the pull, arriving to find the doors sealed and no instructions anywhere that explained what he was supposed to do. He had spent 2 months learning the place by hand, reading what the builders had left, not documents, but structure. The way a room was shaped told you its purpose. The way a corridor bent told you what it was protecting. He had been a bridge surveyor before the watch began, mapped the load-bearing infrastructure of 6 cities, which was why he had understood the installation the way she did, from the structure rather than from any manual. He had a daughter of his own. She would be in her late 40s now if the outside world still measured age that way. He had sent her away before he sealed the doors, put her on a transport heading south with her family, packed a bag for her while she slept, said goodbye at the launch bay, and watched the transport go. He had not explained. There was no explanation that would have fit the time they had. He turned back to the installation because the work was here, and he was the only one who understood it. 31 years alone. 1 log entry per year. He showed her the book that first night. The last entry read, "Year 31, 43,012 pods active, all systems nominal, the children sleep. I keep the watch." Below that, in different ink written recently, "Tonight the doors opened. They came. The children are protected. The watch continues. Not a hiding place, not a shelter, a vigil. A commitment made and kept across decades by a person who had never been asked to make it." "She'll need someone," Dareth said. "When she wakes up, she'll need someone who knows her name, who can explain why her mother put her in a glass box and walked away." "You didn't walk away. You carried her here. She's 4. She won't know the difference. Stay. Guard. When she wakes, however long it takes, be the face she sees." She thought for a moment about the transport that had left before the doors sealed, whether there had been a seat on it, whether the direction it went was somewhere that still existed. Then she stopped thinking about it. Tally was behind that crystal, and someone had to be here when she woke up, and that someone was her. "I'll stay." "What do I do first?" she asked. "Learn the installation, Sethon said. Walk every level. Read it the way you read any structure you're responsible for maintaining. She had already started. She had been doing it since she walked in, scanning load points, corridor angles, the places where a design like this would show stress over time. She had not realized she was doing it until he said so. That night she walked back to the chamber and counted them. A builder's instinct. The things you fail to measure are the things that fail you later. She moved between the pods slowly, touching each one, not reading names, just counting, feeling the warmth through the crystal, the faint pulse of lives suspended between one breath and the next. 43,000. 43,012. Sethon's count had been exact. She pressed her hand to Tally's pod one last time. I'm here. I'm so close. She said good morning every day after that. Every morning for the rest of her life. Not because Tally could hear it, but because the saying of it was how she kept the promise real. How she made certain it did not become abstract over years and decades. She had said it every single day. She had never stopped. 8,000 years later, a man named Braun would find the watch log in the monitoring corridor. He would read the count, 43,012, and stand in the chamber for a long time. He would not know Dareth's name. He would not know about the vendor on Vessel Street, or the stones, or the story about Dalla and the Crystal River. He would know only that someone had been here, keeping this place alive, one morning at a time, for as long as it took. The end. 43 is a short story set in the world of the Sentinel of Crater Daedalus, book 1.6 of the Sentinel trilogy. The full story is available in the vault at brianbullochwriter.com. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and follow me on X at everyoneKNWS1 for more. It's part of a much bigger universe. 3 novels, more short stories on the way, and a podcast called Everyone Knows, where I break down what's really going on in the world. You can find all of it at brianbullochwriter.com. I'm Brian Bullock, and this is Starborne Studios.